We have discussed iterative development and building for evolution. Today, we address the engine that powers both, feedback loops. Without feedback, there is no learning. Without learning, there is no improvement. A feedback loop is simple in concept. You take an action, observe the result, and use that observation to inform your next action. But designing effective feedback loops is an art that separates successful innovators from those who build blindly. Let me share why feedback loops matter so much. In my research on mobile learning, I discovered that the speed and quality of feedback determined learning outcomes more than almost any other factor. When children received immediate feedback right after answering a question, they learned faster. When feedback was delayed even by minutes, learning slowed. When feedback was absent, children repeated mistakes indefinitely. The same principle applies to building AI products. Fast feedback accelerates improvement. Slow feedback slows improvement. No feedback means no improvement at all. You are flying blind. But here is what most innovators miss. Feedback loops do not happen automatically. They must be designed. If you do not deliberately create mechanisms for feedback, you will not receive it, or you will receive it too late to be useful. Let me give you a framework for thinking about feedback loops. There are 3 dimensions that matter: speed, quality, and actionability. Dimension 1, speed. How quickly do you receive feedback after taking an action? Faster is almost always better. A feedback loop that takes a month is far less valuable than one that takes a day. Speed matters because of what happens during the delay. If you deploy a feature and learn a month later that it failed, you have spent a month building on a broken foundation. If you learn in a day, you have lost only a day. Dimension 2, quality. How accurate and comprehensive is the feedback? Feedback can be fast but misleading. Vanity metrics feel good but do not tell you what matters. Quality feedback tells you not just what happened, but why. High download numbers are feedback, but why did people download? Did they use the product after downloading? Quality feedback answers the questions that matter. Dimension 3, actionability. Can you act on the feedback? Feedback that you cannot act on is academic, interesting, but not useful. Design feedback loops that produce information you can actually use to make decisions. Users are unhappy is feedback but not actionable. Users are unhappy because the loading time is too long is actionable. You know what to fix. Design for actionable feedback. Now let me describe specific types of feedback loops you should design into your AA product. Loop 1, user behavior feedback. What are users actually doing with your product? Not what they say they do, what they actually do. Instrument your product to track real behavior. Track which features are used and which are ignored. Track where users get stuck. Track how long tasks take. Track what users do right before they abandon. Behavior is the most honest feedback. Users cannot lie with their actions. Loop 2, outcome feedback. Did users achieve their goals? This is harder to measure than behavior, but ultimately more important. The purpose of your product is to help users accomplish something. Did it? Define success metrics tied to user outcomes. If your AA tutoring system aims to improve test scores, track test scores, not just time spent in the app. If your AA assistant aims to save time, measure time saved, not just queries answered. Loop 3, explicit feedback. Ask users directly. Surveys, ratings, reviews, feedback forms. Explicit feedback captures what users think and feel, information that behavior alone cannot reveal. But be careful with explicit feedback. It is often biased. People say what they think you want to hear. People say what makes them look good. Design explicit feedback mechanisms that encourage honesty and triangulate with behavioral data. Loop 4, AI performance feedback. For AI systems specifically, you need feedback on how the AI itself is performing. Are predictions accurate? Are recommendations relevant? Are responses appropriate? AI performance feedback often requires specialized instrumentation. Track prediction accuracy over time. Monitor for drift, the phenomenon where AI performance degrades as the world changes. Build dashboards that make AI performance visible. Loop 5, market feedback. How is your product performing in the market? Revenue, growth, churn, competitive position. Market feedback tells you whether your product is succeeding in its ecosystem. Market feedback is typically slower than other types. You see it in quarterly numbers, not daily metrics, but it is the ultimate arbiter. A product can have great user feedback and still fail in the market. Design for market feedback alongside product feedback. Let me share how Smile uses feedback loops. In the Smile platform, students create questions and rate each other's questions. This design creates multiple feedback loops. For students, they receive immediate feedback from peers on question quality. This feedback is fast within the same class session. It is high quality. Peers explain why they rated as they did. It is actionable. Students learn to write better questions. For teachers, they see which concepts students struggle with, revealed by the questions students create. If many students ask confused questions about a topic, the teacher knows that topic needs more attention. Questions become a feedback mechanism for teaching. For us as developers, we see how the platform is being used across thousands of classrooms. We see which features work and which cause confusion. We see patterns that suggest improvements. The platform generates its own feedback about how to improve it. This multi-level feedback was designed from the beginning. We did not add feedback mechanisms later. We built the product around feedback loops. Feedback is not a feature, it is the architecture. Now let me address common mistakes in feedback loop design. Mistake 1, measuring what is easy rather than what matters. Page views, downloads, and time on site are easy to measure, but do they correlate with user success? Often, the important metrics are harder to measure, but worth the effort. Mistake 2, ignoring negative feedback. Negative feedback is uncomfortable. There is a natural tendency to explain it away, dismiss it as edge cases, or focus on positive signals instead. But negative feedback is often the most valuable. It shows you exactly what to fix. Mistake 3, feedback loops that are too slow. Annual surveys, quarterly reviews, monthly reports. By the time you receive the feedback, the situation has changed. Design for the fastest feedback possible given your constraints. Mistake 4, not closing the loop. Collecting feedback is only half the loop. You must act on it and then measure the result of your action. A feedback loop with no action is just data collection. Mistake 5, single source feedback. Relying on only one type of feedback, only surveys, only metrics, only user interviews. Different feedback sources reveal different truths. Triangulate across multiple sources. For AI systems, feedback loops have additional importance. AI learns from data, and user interactions generate data. The feedback loop is not just for you to learn, it is for the AI to learn. Design your AI system to capture training data from user interactions. When users correct, the AI capture that correction. When users accept or reject recommendations, capture that signal. Every user interaction is potential training data. This creates a virtuous cycle. Users interact with AI, interactions generate training data, AI improves, users have better experiences, more users engage, more training data is generated. Feedback loops power AI improvement. For Kazakhstan entrepreneurs, feedback loops help you understand a market that outside observers do not know well. Your direct feedback from Kazakh users is a competitive advantage. You learn things that international competitors cannot easily learn. But you must design for this feedback deliberately. Build relationships with users who will give you honest input. Create channels for feedback in Kazakh and Russian. Go to where your users are. Do not wait for them to come to you. Let me also address feedback loops within your team. The same principles apply to internal processes. How quickly does your team learn from its own actions? How do you capture and share learnings? Sprint retrospectives are feedback loops for team process. Code reviews are feedback loops for engineering quality. User research debriefs are feedback loops for customer understanding. Design feedback into every aspect of your operation. Here is your challenge after this session. 1. Map all the feedback loops currently in your product or plan. Identify the type of each loop, its speed, quality, and actionability. 2. Identify at least one critical feedback loop that is missing or too slow. 3. Design a specific mechanism to create or accelerate that feedback loop. 4. Define how you will capture AI training data from user interactions. 5. Create a feedback dashboard mockup showing the metrics you will track. For Smile participation, this module, post your feedback loop description and your plan to improve one loop. Comment on 3 peers' feedback designs, suggesting additional loops they may have overlooked or ways to accelerate existing loops. Evaluate 3 peer submissions based on comprehensiveness and likelihood of generating actionable insights. This collective feedback design improves everyone's learning systems. Sample posting. My Medisys Triage app currently has 4 feedback loops: real-time user behavior tracking, fast, high quality; doctor diagnosis confirmation, slow, takes days; patient satisfaction surveys, medium speed, biased; and weekly AA accuracy reports. My weakest loop is doctor feedback because it takes too long. To fix this, I will send doctors an SMS right after each patient asking, was our triage correct? Reply 1 equals yes, 2 equals should be higher priority, 3 equals should be lower priority. This should give us same-day feedback instead of waiting a week, and every doctor correction becomes training data for the AIA. Sample peer comment. Good SMS idea for accelerating doctor feedback. Simple and respects their time. Consider also adding a 48-hour patient follow-up asking if they actually follow the recommended action. This would tell you if your advice is usable, not just accurate. Resources. Measure what matters. By John Doerr explains how to design metrics that drive improvement. Thinking in Systems by Donella Meadows provides a framework for understanding feedback dynamics. For AI-specific feedback, Human-in-the-Loop Machine Learning by Robert Monarch covers how to design systems that learn from user feedback. Let me close with this observation. The difference between organizations that improve and organizations that stagnate is not talent or resources. It is learning speed. And learning speed is determined by feedback loops. Design feedback into everything you do. Make learning visible. Make improvement systematic. The organizations that win are those that learn fastest, and learning requires feedback. If we can imagine, we can make it happen, and feedback loops are how we know if what we imagined is actually working.